Welcome to Grace Notes, the weekly community affairs show with Yorktown Supervisor Michael Grace. I'm your host, Bruce Apar of Chase Media Group, and we always quickly start off the show listing some upcoming events, but we should also introduce our guest, Mr. Councilman Dave Paganelli.
Thank you. Honored to be here.
Honored to
I'm honored to be.
both of you are the honorable.
I'm happy to be sitting in this seat in another,
Right, for another reason. Right, on another night.
Yeah, it doesn't seem to be such a hot seat tonight. That's a good thing.
Well, you never know. I mean, we haven't started
That's
yet.
True. That's true. With the two of you can never be
Like
quite
the supervisor
sure.
said, we go with the flow, and you
That's
don't know where
true.
the flow's going to go. I don't know. Does the flow have fluoride in it? We'll find out.
There you go.
We'll find out.
The flow always has fluoride in it.
Anyhow, so we do like to share just some upcoming events. Speaking of flu shots, I guess they were given out
Were we
today,
speaking
right?
of flu
The
shots?
town gave out flu shots
Yes,
today. Yeah.
my wife and daughter came.
And
got flu
you?
shots.
Yeah.
I had gotten one a couple
Previously,
months ago.
yeah,
but
so did I, yeah.
It was a nice turnout.
Right.
People were very grateful for the opportunity.
Yeah,
No, of course.
Dr. Klein came up to my office and introduced himself, and
Oh, Dr. Klein was giving them, administering?
and he was trying to talk me into having one.
Did you? No?
I said I already have the flu. So.
They don't want to give it to you when you have a cold.
You may not. You may not get. I don't know. I just.
Right. So that's already the antidote, is that you have it.
Yeah.
But then also, as we reminded people last show, January 21 is Martin Luther King Day, so all government offices are closed, right?
Monday, right.
Yes.
Yeah, right. All government offices are closed. January 22, the Teen Center is having a Greatest Films movie in discussion. And on a business note, January 26th, Saturday, Salsa Fresca, the grand opening.
That's right.
All of this, by the way, folks, is right here on the community calendar on yorktownny.org, the town website. And then, of course, on January 27th, the Yorktown Chamber of Commerce has its big home expo at Club Fit,
Right.
and that should be a good show.
Yep. Always a good turnout.
Yeah, it always is. And then that's it for now as far as the imminent events. And so what is going on in the town? Supervisor and councilman, nothing?
Nothing.
Yeah, it's real quiet.
It's really quiet.
Well, it's.
We rarely touch on anything.
Yeah, I know, right.
We rarely touch on
No-
anything contentious.
no
you know.
controversies or
No.
Well, actually, we last time we talked, we were talking about the parking regs. We passed them.
That was passed, yes.
So
right.
when it actually it was a little contentious in the December meeting, but January meeting went very well.
Right.
And it was very nice to see the support of the Yorktown Green organization and people.
Right.
Smart growth people were very enthused about it. Another thing that came out of there was that we're now going to be a couple of things. We're going to be considering a law to look at the requirements for connectivity between commercial sites in terms of sidewalks, and
Pedestrian friendly.
Oh,
yeah. So we're going to move on that. We looked at some draft language last night, which we will start to incorporate.
So you're saying connecting commercial sites with...
Well, if you go around the town, I mean, there's places that have sidewalks. Most of the sidewalks that were put in.
Downtown, most of it's been done already. But anything new coming in, like things that are going to be, God willing, coming in on the north side of 202, that they'll be able to connect if things go well and you have development there, you'll be able to leave one area, walk to another, walk across the street to BJ's. Just make it more pedestrian friendly.
So there'll be a crosswalk or something in that case.
Well,
crosswalk across 202, but sidewalks, along 202. For bicycles or pedestrians or whatever the case might be.
That would be great. Yeah.
And we're going to. We had a staff meeting the other day. We're going to start rallying the troops again to push the redevelopment of 202.
Right.
And coming in with some design concepts and hopefully meet with DOT. We've talked to some of the people in the Yorktown Green. I don't know, the Yorktown Green Party is it Yorktown
Green Yorktown, Smart Growth Yorktown.
Right.
And hopefully we'll get together with all of them shortly to discuss the ideas for 202. Because we do have an application for a rezoning on the State Land Corp, which is 100 acres.
Right.
And then on the north side, the only other piece that's not parkland or state land is the county piece. I think that's about it. So there's not much to develop on the north side of 202, but
100 acres is adequate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you got to consider redevelopment. You know, you've got a lot of empty,
Right.
you know, dealerships and things that really,
Right.
you know, it's
That
it's
restaurant, the Windmill Restaurant, still.
I think it's an
vacant?
exciting time for Yorktown. I think.
We're hoping to, what we're hoping to do is you know, come in with a kind of a comprehensive plan for that whole area that we can all, but I'd like to bring in the Yorktown Green, and.
Smart growth
Smart
Yorktown.
growth people and whatever, you know, early in the process. There's going to be some things that they may not like, which we have to consider in consideration for some private money to go into the redevelopment of 202.
Right.
But I think if we get ahead of the curve on it, we'll be in good stead in the future for that.
And how would it be financed otherwise?
Well, the back of the envelope on what would need to be done after the state does the improvements that they're looking to do at this point, probably about $15 million. But I think there's good cause to be resistant to doing this, you know, 5 lanes of blacktop from curb to curb along 202.
Right.
So
I think that a lot of the plan was for a median.
Yeah.
You know, a much nicer scenario. You know, user-friendly in terms of visual appeal and
landscape.
You know, that's you know, certainly the theme we hear over and over again from everyone is we don't want 202 to be Central Avenue.
Right. Yes.
Right. Not that there's anything wrong with Central Avenue. Central Avenue is wonderful, but you know what? This is Yorktown, and it has to maintain a certain visual appeal, and it has to have, you know, 202 is never going to be bucolic.
Right.
Well, yeah. I mean, we
can make it as nice, right? We can make it as we can,
Right.
you know, carry the ball forward with respect to making it as visually appealing, you know,
Right, under the
aesthetically as
circumstances,
possible.
Yeah, well, you could, you know, there's certain vegetation and trees that you're planting that are resistant to the highway kind of uses in proximity to them. The idea is that if we leave it to the state DOT to design it, we're going to get this swath of blacktop.
Right.
So the idea is that we really have to be out in front.
Right.
And hopefully with some private investment and maybe even some local investment,
Right.
we can achieve that. And the return should be good because there's significant ratables that can be achieved.
So you would put it out to bid? Is that-
What we'll do is we'll design,
would do
Come up
itself?
what we like.
come up with a
And
design
then-
and just push that forward.
And whenever we have applicants that are coming forward, you know, we have concessions that we ask for with respect to, you have an environmental impact anytime you make a development.
Right.
And that being said, you need to ask for something in return to offset that environmental impact.
Yeah, and
We're in a very good position that we have a big commercial corridor, that there are a lot of people who would be very interested in that becoming a very viable commercial corridor.
Right.
So that being said, you know, we have the option to ask,
So they should
know,
want to help
for certain
support
things.
the
Right.
effort, yeah.
Yeah, and it's
you know, you can't ask for the moon, but
No.
you can ask for the sun and the stars.
we can, it'll be interesting. I mean, there's a lot of potential for redevelopment. There would be some new development, which would be on the north side, but that's going to be limited.
Right.
But smart growth in Green Yorktown have to understand that more than likely that's going to include another big box.
Where state land is.
Probably, yeah.
Yeah, right.
And
Well, not big box to the tune of Costco, but
Right.
you know, two
So-
big boxes a little smaller than that, perhaps.
Right.
yeah, well, we'll have to see. I mean, they
They've thrown a few, you know, hypotheticals out there.
Yeah. But it'll be interesting. So I think that's an initiative where we have to take the lead.
Yes, right.
And I think if we come up with a design, come up with a plan, and then push it with some commitment of private dollars, I think we can get it done. So that holds promise. I think we also one of the other initiatives we're looking at is this for energy efficiency in commercial buildings and multifamily buildings.
That's an interesting financial arrangement.
Where you can actually, what you do is you can get an audit, and a lot of these audits are paid for by NYSERDA, and what they do is they audit your building to find out where you can have energy efficiencies.
Right.
And then you draw up a plan to do it, whether it's boilers, windows, HVAC systems, whatever it is. So whatever the capital improvement, you kind of design what the capital improvement is that will give you the efficiencies.
Within their perimeters of the audit.
Yeah. And then what you do is that you can then borrow third-party money through certain markets that will finance the improvement for the energy efficiency. And you have to, the investment has to give you a return on efficiency within a certain parameter. If it does that, then you qualify. Then the project will qualify, and you'll qualify for the financing. Then you borrow the money, and the loan would be paid back by a new line on your income tax as a
Like an assessment, would it be an assessment?
like you wouldn't be in a special district,
Right.
your own special district.
Right.
And so you would pay it in the underlying taxes, which would be paid to the receiver of taxes, and that money would then be paid over to the
Which also
financing
makes
company.
it tax deductible.
Right.
Right.
That's the advantage to the business owner or the homeowner.
Right.
And it doesn't cost
There's a financial upside to them.
Yes.
and
Right.
it doesn't cost the town anything.
Right.
What we have to do is we just facilitate the method of repayment. But we have to do that. We'd have to authorize that. So
Right.
if we authorize that, then they can go ahead with their improvements. But I think one of the candidates may be the Roma building or Zerka building, whatever it is now, because
Right.
they're doing a facade lift. But I'm sure they've got some energy efficiencies that they could probably achieve.
Oh, yeah.
And whether they do it through their own financing or doing it through this financing, well maybe I'll have to approach him to see if he's interested, because that may be the first.
The first
one
one.
out of
Yeah.
It's going to be great,
Right.
great to have that building
I know.
facelift.
And actually, that's an interesting point you're making, Supervisor, about it. I wonder if they're going to rename the building. That could happen. Sure. The new owner. Right.
And it's kind of funny. You say, well, why would we get involved in this type of
The
an
impetus.
arrangement? Well, the idea, the public benefit is that if you've got energy efficient buildings
Right.
in the community, community saves energy.
Saves money, right.
Energy.
Yeah.
So the idea is,
And it opens you up to grant money too. The more energy efficiency
Right.
energy efficient you are, the more chance you have of grant money when it comes around. That
Right, like
at least
homeowners, like they
you're
do for
making
homeowners.
making the
Yeah,
effort.
right, yeah.
Certainly.
Right.
So that's we've got a few things still in the works. I mean, we're Dave and I had even pledged when we ran that we would review the regulatory infrastructures of the
Right.
town, and we're making some roads into doing that. It's a much longer road than even I anticipated.
Well, yeah, certainly more than I anticipated.
Right.
It's interesting because when constituents come forward with their problems, it's not always necessarily, oh yeah, I'll get out there and take care of that. As much as you want to do it, and as much as you try to do that, you can't serve 36,000 residents.
Right.
Personally, you serve them, as best you can, representing the silent majority, and that's, like Michael said, when we ran, we said we would speak for the people. We're not going to, cater to special interest groups, and we would speak for the silent majority, and
Right.
you know what, and look at the regulations that might be a little onerous to people.
Right.
Yeah, so last year was, we had this discussion before here, and last year was filled with a lot of distractions that kind of bogged us down. But I think we did a pretty good job of getting ahead of tying a lot of loose ends.
I'm proud of what we accomplished in 1 year.
Yeah, no, I think we did very well, and I hear it outside the town.
Right.
I mean, quite a distance outside the town. That boy, things are different in Yorktown. And,
Well, that was,
Right.
that was the hard thing. It was for years, oh gosh, you wouldn't want to open a business in Yorktown.
Right.
And, our thought was, Yorktown's open for business.
Right.
And that being said, I think that, it's amazing that in such a short period of time with so many other distractions, the hurricane and the various things that we've been dealing with, that we still have been able to forge ahead and really made a huge change in public opinion with respect to how it is to do business
and there
in
have been a
Yorktown.
number of businesses open.
Right.
Yeah, no, I think the message got out.
Yeah.
I think the message got out very loud and clear. I mean, there were certain things. I just was talking to somebody just recently, You know, it's funny, you look back on the year and think, oh, you know, you just trying to, yeah, I mean, we did accomplish a lot. I forget half of it because it's just, there was a lot that was done.
Right.
But one of the big things, and, you know, I think which really set the tone for this administration, you know, when we came on board was getting the winery done.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, no, you're right.
I think
Yeah.
that said to everybody, we're going to start to
Right.
help people. I mean, that and the Temptation Tea House in Mohegan.
Right.
And the public hearings for Costco, and,
Yep.
you know, the planning board was awesome with respect to extending their hearings till, you know, they did a great job, you know, that they would have as many hearings as necessary till everyone got to have their say.
Right.
And you know what, there were a lot of great comments there from both sides, and pro and con, and, you know, it gives a lot of, you know, begets a lot of, you know, concern.
Right. No, it was
So
a
that
good
being said-
community dialogue.
Yep,
in
it was-
Costco. Yeah.
You know, first one was a little contentious, second meeting was a little more productive,
Right.
you know.
Well, you know, you're always going to have those that are never going to want it, and you have the Chicken Little crowd that thinks the
Wow.
sky's falling. And,
Of course.
Right.
But overall, I mean, you have to, you know, my opinion is there's a dilapidated old hotel and a really worn-out site, and I think that Costco could have the same effect that the winery had.
Right.
In terms of signifying that we're serious about doing things, but also doing them right. I mean, it's not, you know, the what I think has to be tempered is this fear that all of a sudden,
The rubber stamp.
yeah, and that,
Right.
that all of a sudden, you know, two can turn into, you know, Central Avenue. There's a lot of misinformation out there. The north side of 202, I think, is open, surrounded by 500 acres of open space. You have
Right.
the Sylvan Park Preserve. You
Yeah.
have the Granite Knolls
Right.
property. You're going to have another 50, 60 acres given by State Land Corp. You have you have a linear park that goes from essentially the legacy ball fields all the way through Lexington Avenue with major acreage.
Right.
So
And we brought, and, you know, it was good, you know, even in the Parks and Rec scenario, you know, taking business aside, we've brought fields online, you know, practice fields up at Granite Knolls, you know, which were worthless, and, you know,
Right.
our kids will be playing on
They're
those this year,
usable, yeah.
you know, which is great.
Right.
Yep,
That's
and then
right.
we're going to get into, we'll get that dog park done this year,
Yep,
come
well,
hell or high
you know.
water. And then, and talking about recreational fields, I mean, we had an interesting board meeting last
We
night.
did.
You do a lot of work with the
work-
YAC, right?
Well, yeah, I'm on the board.
Yeah, well, yeah, you got,
Surprised you weren't here.
got elections coming up, right, on the 24th?
I chair the nominating committee.
Yeah.
Well,
So-
and it's pretty much going to be by acclamation. The elections is pretty much unopposed candidates.
But,
Well, this was last night.
Well, this was
last night
work
because-
With
session.
respect to
Yesterday,
the
work
school imposing user
Yes, the fees, right.
Right.
I know you had the other meeting, the previous meeting.
Well, that
Well,
was
we had-
that was the exploratory meeting
Right.
that we had, you know, which the school district told us what they needed.
Right.
You know, and we sort of said, well, we do this, and, you know, we sort of, the clubs were there, and Michael was there, and myself, and Brian Gray, our, you know,
Right.
superintendent of parks, and, you know, Diana Quast, our chairperson of the Parks and Recs Commission, and, you know, we were all fighting towards the same goal, but, you know, there are now, I think Michael hit it well, is, you know, regardless, the world is not the same world it was 5 years ago.
Right.
With the tax cap, with various, you know, restrictions and things that everyone has, parameters that people have to live within, you know, it's not, well, it's always been this way. Why does it have to, why does it have to,
revenue is what you're
well,
saying.
why does it have to be changed? It has to be changed because we're in an ever-evolving environment.
Right.
Things change.
the rules.
Just because it was right forever doesn't, and it might very well be right now in terms of what's right. But what
Or it's not
the
practical.
law says, or what
practical,
what
right.
you know, what the school district needs to do to make themselves whole,
Right.
might be a different scenario. You know,
So is it finalized now? I don't.
Well, you know, we're trying to explain to them, you know, the rules of engagement have changed for everybody. And,
Right.
and I always analogize it to them in the trial attorney, and we've got a new administrative law judge in the Ninth Judicial District, and he set new rules for everybody's in terms of engagement between each other.
Right.
And it's made life very difficult.
Right.
Because it used to be, you know, courtesies between plaintiffs and defendants on cases as far as adjournments and trying to accommodate schedules doesn't happen anymore. They just say, well, you can't do it because you have to do what we say. So I've never been on so many conferences where something doesn't get done in time, where it used to be, don't worry about it, you get another week or something like that. Now I got to run down to court every time and explain, well, why didn't it get out last week? And,
Right.
or why I didn't get it last week or something like that. So when you treat everybody as children, then you've got the obligation to do the babysitting if you want them to follow. So,
Right.
well, it's no different on the, in the government level. The states decided that.
Worse in the government level because you have a plethora of push down on you from a variety of different
unfunded mandates.
right.
Right. So the state government's decided that, for every public benefit corporation, that they're going to live with a 2% cap, whether it suits them or doesn't suit them, whether they're really unconcerned about your particular, and it comes out that the governor can sit there and stick his feather in his hat and say, well, I've pushed this down on everybody, and everybody's pushed it down on us, sitting there saying, well, I could do it if you still provided the funding for the mandates that you want us to do.
Right.
But since you've taken that away and now you've done it, so who takes the political heat? It's not the governor's office. It's not the state officials.
Local government.
It becomes the local government officials. And why does the governor's office or anybody on the state level care how much heat the local officials take or how much heat the local school superintendent takes?
Right.
Could care less.
Right.
But so that's your problem. You got to deal with it. But these are the rules of engagement
Right.
that you have to live by. So the school district is sitting there. Look, they got to look for sources of revenue, and I tried to explain to them last night. I mean, we had somebody in here at the work session earlier talking about a part-time position versus a full-time position, and 1 hour, giving a 24-hour position doesn't include benefits. 25-hour position includes benefits, and we say, well, why don't you look for 24 hours?
Well,
we
what's the
save on
difference?
benefits?
And you know what the response is? Well, what's the difference? You got a $50 million budget. The difference, you know what the difference is? And I always use this, and this was the first month when you and I were in office, and Michael got a letter from a little girl because the lifeguard at Sparkle Lake had been written out.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Okay, I think it was $17,000. All right, because the previous administration was cut. And as a result of that, everyone was coming to the table. I can get rid of this, I can get rid of that, I can get rid of this. Now, there was, in addition, this little girl wrote a letter saying, I like going there with my mom, and, it helps my mom if there's a lifeguard there. And, we needed the fact that with a $50 million budget, that we needed to labor over a decision to put a lifeguard there.
Yeah,
and then you have somebody, else say to you, oh, it's only $12,000 difference. Well, you know what,
Where's it coming
$12,000,
from?
well, it's not only that. When you think in the real world, when you've had a business and you've struggled and you know how things are, you think, okay, if I don't spend that $12,000 there, I can do this. It's not a matter of I can do everything, because you can't do everything.
Right, and what's interesting about it, and it's a total $51 million budget. But our levy, the tax cap goes to the levy. Our levy is about 28, 29 million. That means, and a levy being that's the money we have to raise by taxes, which we are not raising by all other sources of revenue.
Right.
So we have, maybe there's 22 million that we get through other revenue sources, fees, sales tax, franchise fees, rentals. Right. There's another, the other 30 million we have to raise by taxes.
Right.
So when you talk about, and then when you talk about taxes, you really talk about percent. So you're talking about 1%. So you talk about 1% of, and you're the good math. 1% of 30 million is 300,000.
Right.
No, is it
3,000?
Yeah.
300,000.
300,000. Yeah.
Well, the funny thing is,
so 10,000 here and 10,000 there, you get to 300,000 really quick.
Oh yeah, and the funny thing was when we went out there and we saved $800,000 on a garbage bid, over last year, and there were people that actually had which I felt, I'll refer to it as the nerve to say, well, what are you saving me, $67 a year?
Yeah,
well,
no,
we're saving $800,000, which we could then use for a plethora of other great causes.
Right.
That's the bottom line. Yeah, when you start breaking it down to each household, if you told them you were going to spend an extra $800,000,
They'd go crazy.
They'd go crazy. They wouldn't say, "Oh, geez, it's only an extra
That's right.
$67 to me."
When you want to spend it, you
Right.
say I'm only spending $30 per household.
Right.
I don't tell you I'm spending $800,000.
Right,
And
exactly.
when I
To
save
save
it,
it,
I go the other way.
It's $800,000.
But the real issue is that when I try to explain it to the clubs last night, is you're really talking about when you talk about a school budget, which is probably close to $100 million,
Over
right?
100, yep.
And they're sitting there going, oh, well, you're talking about fees of $5 an hour to use a ball field, or $20 an hour to use a gym, and I'm thinking, these seems to be pretty reasonable. $5 an hour to use a ball field means somebody doesn't buy a hot dog and a Gatorade for that night,
Right.
But
Might not even get a hot dog and a Gatorade for $5.
so it seems to be reasonable, but.
Right.
But they're certainly going. But I think they're
They're afraid of opening Pandora's box.
Well, they think, well,
essentially.
why being this petty
Right.
about this little amounts? Because that means really what you want to do is go there. And what they don't understand is, no, it's not that. But the $5 an hour, this adds up to, I guess, at the end of the day, was $40,000 or something like that. So it may be
29,000 to certain clubs. The real clubs that have
So maybe-
1,500 to 2,000 members.
Right, yes.
So
right.
maybe
Some clubs have 200 members.
a couple have
Mohansick girls
1,000, a 1,000.
basketball.
Yeah, YC got
Boy,
1,500.
York-
Yorktown Youth
Well,
Soccer
see, and
has.
SOAC
Yorktown
have
Youth
that kind of
Soccer, I
size,
think,
yeah.
has
Right.
So it comes out to
1,200
maybe,
or-
Right.
So over the course of the year and all the activities that you do, it maybe come out to $20 extra a head. The thing is, so it's all how you look at it. It's all how you break it down. But the bottom line is, on the aggregate, it makes a difference to the school budget.
Right.
But by the same respect,
Well, they
with
can say,
respect to their point,
what's that
is-
against $900 million? Well,
right, with respect to their point, it's, they are an arm of the government. That's how they consider themselves. And we consider them partners in recreation.
Right. The argument is that
certainly-
the clubs are doing a service
Right.
that
Correct.
in other cases the government actually provides.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, but this,
In some cases,
right.
you know what? Honestly, I don't know necessarily if, with respect to sports clubs, if the government or the school district would be at
It depends on the town.
At a-
Yeah,
at a
it goes town by
responsibility.
town.
Well,
It's a
yeah,
case
I
by
mean,
case basis.
for us to do it, the whole nature of the programs would be different.
Right.
Because you'd have rec programs, but
Right.
you wouldn't have travel programs.
Right.
Travel programs are always
No,
going.
those would be
those
they
always
would be
gonna private
privatized.
anyhow, yeah.
Right. They'd be privatized.
So you
yeah,
always have.
Right.
So it's not going to be qualitatively the same. So,
Right.
But so there's
But their argument is that, doesn't the town do enough for the school districts with respect to maintaining the fields and the things that we do in the fields that we've put online?
Right.
That can't we push down on the school district? That's a difficult thing. I mean, right now we're in the process of formalizing an IMA with the school district that we can, use their equipment, they can use our equipment. Right. Everybody's pushing consolidation.
Right.
And we're moving towards that in terms of
Shared
working with the
services,
school
yeah.
district, and it's a very, it's a
Well,
very
it's the
difficult thing.
proverbial town gown relationship, right?
Yes.
That's what you have.
yeah. Well, I mean,
Schools and-
we want to work well.
But in our proverbial town gown relationship, we have our sports clubs that have,
Yes.
a crucial
Or like in
benefit.
between. They're in between
Right,
the
a
two,
crucial
basically,
benefit
yeah.
to the community.
Right. But this has got this, the psychologists would call the triangulation
Yes,
going on.
right, that's right.
And the problem is that we're trying to do shared services with the schools.
Right.
Because it saves everybody money. Saves the town money, saves the school money. But I also have to be cognizant of the fact that the school have their needs and we have our needs.
Right.
So, so to the degree that we can share services and to the degree that we can save everybody money, fine. To the degree that that doesn't happen, and there's conflicts, there's not much we can do about it. I think the school district was really looking for, to me, there were nominal fees. To the clubs, on the
Right.
aggregate, they're not nominal.
Right. And I can tell you, it's not just the hard dollars. There, from the club's point of view, there's also a principle involved. With what you're saying, like, shouldn't the town and the schools be working with us instead of
Yes.
just retail? Basically, it's like a retail situation. You just want to charge us like we're another customer, but we're not. We're also a vendor. We're not just a customer.
Right.
But by the
it's-
same
there's
respect, the town does do that. See, the town has dozens and dozens of fields online
Right.
that we charge nothing for because we recognize the fact that they are providing a service to our students, to our kids.
Right.
the children of our constituents, who are constituents themselves.
Right.
You know, we realize that, and we do charge nothing for anything other than Legacy Field, which has, you know, turf and lights, and there's a cost associated with
Right.
it. So we do that, and we do give a stipend to the sports clubs. So, you know, to come in and say that we're not partnering with them,
Right.
it could be a bit cantankerous and a bit offensive, because we do certainly from our end, we try to do everything we can to facilitate everything that they need.
And then
You know.
and then what happens? You know, and this is the other problem. If you know, if you start to scrutinize all these arrangements,
Right.
then you start to really get into, you know, then you get to the issue of, okay, I can say it's, you know, it's reasonably a town function to provide recreational services,
Right.
which you're providing, we're not providing, we don't have the overhead, blah, blah, blah.
Right,
But then
that's-
I got to do, if I'm giving you stipends and they're going to travel teams, well, all of a sudden,
No, I agree with you
all of a
there.
sudden that
Then you're
becomes
subsidizing. You're basically subsidizing individual
Well, we just-
families. when you
Right,
do
right,
that.
and
Yeah, I agree.
and then you get so
Right.
so you, and the thing is, if you start to say, well, now look, everybody's feet's going to be held to the fire on everything if this
Right.
is where we're going to go, and then you're going to have this accounting and then this back and forth, and you're really going to make life miserable for everybody.
Right.
So you have to find somewhat of a middle ground on it. I you know, for it's asking us to beat down on the schools, or you know, the schools asking us to beat down on the clubs, are two unacceptable positions for the town.
Right.
Well, I don't think the
understand.
schools asked us to beat down.
No, I mean, but I mean that the triangulation of going back
Right,
and forth.
right.
That's
It's,
the essence. The essence of it would be, look, we want the.
We're
Cubs to
looking
get
at
this,
it
and the
with
Cubs don't
respect-
wanna, you know,
we're
you go
looking-
back to them. We get stuck in the negotiation.
Right, we're looking at it,
Right.
you know, with the Parks and Recs Commission, we're looking at it with respect to the, you know, the difference in this administration is Michael and I. All right, so what we're looking at now is things that perhaps have not been looked at before.
Right.
And for whatever reason, not saying that anybody previously was negligent in doing that. It's just a new perspective. That's what we said we would bring to the table. And even as far as, you know, the money that goes to the clubs, you know what, it came to fruition, our attention rather, that people were, some of that money was being used for equipment. That's not appropriate.
Right.
So what we've tried to do now, and there were some clubs that were being left out entirely, which is very unfortunate, because there's some of the older clubs in town. There are people that are very active in coming to commission meetings and speaking their piece. And, you know, I got to take my hats off to them. And you know what, if we can come to a more centralized use for the money, and it, you know, protects us in terms of audits and what have you, it's a good thing for everybody, because all the clubs will benefit from it. There won't be anybody left out.
Right.
You
You
know?
know, something else that for years was sort of a bone of contention with YIC, and I at one point got in the middle of it, or got very involved in it, is that why isn't there on the Parks and Rec Commission actual seats that are designated for each club so that they have equal
Yeah, no,
representation?
was brought up-
It
it was brought up yesterday.
last night, actually, and the thing is, it's kind of interesting
Because they're voting, my take on that would be, to be honest with you, because a lot of the legislation that is discussed by the Parks and Recs Commission is directly affecting.
Yeah,
the
but
sports
then
clubs.
you could argue
No.
then they should be part
No,
of that.
because
yeah,
you're- in essence, you're
get
putting-
into these kind of conflicts of
But now
covering
you-
your own nest.
Now that's right. Now you're saying, are you going to put the fox in charge of the hen house?
But then on the other hand,
You know, you need-
over the years,
They have liaisons
Over
that
the-
don't half the time aren't even there.
Well, who? The clubs?
Yeah.
Well, over the years, though, there have been, we're not talking about current members, there have been people on the Parks and Rec Commission who really have no involvement in athletics, and they're making decisions for people who are involved in athletics.
I don't. What I've witnessed.
But all this really points to is, like Dave is saying, is that you got to take a fresh. How many times do I got to hear that I've been in here? Well, this is the way we always have done it.
Right.
I hear that time and time again, and you look at
Oh,
the
no,
way
that's the worst
Right,
right
and you
there.
look at the way things have always been done.
I
and
haven't-
it may be some idiosyncratic quirk with the manager somewhere along the line.
right.
But I got to tell you, it's the whole Parks and Recs and Clubs scenario this year. I mean, I haven't missed a meeting. I'm the liaison to the Parks and Recs. I haven't missed a meeting this year. And I got to tell you honestly, it's when there's something discussed, it's like our friends just sitting there. I'm like, God, why don't you come up here and sit here? You know, sit here, because this is
Well, right.
we need to hear what you have to
That's
say
right,
on this.
exactly, right.
You know, it doesn't have to be, if you're a receptive commission
Right.
Okay, and you're interested in doing the right thing, which I believe this particular commission is interested in doing. I have no knowledge of previous commissions, so I can't, I can't speak to that. But I know for a fact that when I'm sitting there, I'll say, Al, come up and sit down, or, Rick, come up and sit down. Tell us what you think on this. We had a meeting the other day when 2 seniors were here, and I said, and they thought we were going to be discussing their stipends. And I said to them, come up and sit down and tell us what you think about this. And they're like, well, is it okay? I said, it's your money.
Right.
You're the taxpayer. We're discussing your money. That's what it comes down to. So, yes, you're more than welcome to come and sit up here and talk to us and tell us what you think.
Right.
But it is. I mean, you have all these kind of arrangements, which sort of historically have gotten there, and everybody's kind of turned a blind eye to it. The problem is that under the new rules of engagement for all of us, which includes what the state mandates are and what the mandates of the state controller's office are, is that those rules of engagement have changed, and so now you can't necessarily do that. So.
You have to roll with the punches, right?
So it goes to the whole thing.
You do the best you can.
You have to, the senior club stipend becomes the same type of issue.
We discussed a special program. We discussed. I was just going to say that we discussed a special program last night that half the people here didn't know what it was. Never had heard of it. Not only didn't know what it was.
Not only that, but it's a program that started in the 1970s. It's Northwest, which provides recreational
people with
services
disabilities.
for people with disabilities, and from children to adults and everything else. So they obviously perform a very laudable service. They began being funded by the municipalities within the jurisdiction of Northwest, and they're located in the town of Cortland, and we just get billed on an annual basis. This is what you owe us. And so the question was raised is why? Why do we,
what do we get from it? If you ever go through an audit and you're spending $38,000 worth of taxpayer money.
Don't you want to know what it's for?
Yeah.
Anything. That's with respect to anybody that benefits from taxpayer funds, I'll use Michael's terms, we have a fiduciary responsibility, okay, to make sure that money is being spent for what it is designated for, that it is advantageous to the citizens of Yorktown, that we benefit from it, our constituency benefits from it. And that's at the bottom line, if your barometer on any decision you make, okay, and this is how I sleep well at night. If your decision is, how did it affect the taxpayer? Did I do the right thing for the taxpayer?
Right.
Then you have no questions.
That's what you're here for.
You know what I mean? There's sometimes, and not with respect to Michael, but sometimes we hear legal opinion, and then there's moral obligations. What's the right thing to do?
Right.
Can we skirt out of this contract? Oh, we could, but you know what? Everybody acted in good faith. We need to make some sort of effort to make it right.
Right.
Because it's just like the gun owners being printed. Just because it's legal doesn't make it right.
Yeah, that's a very good example.
You know what?
Very
it does
timely
not.
example.
It does not make it right.
No, but it's true. You have to revisit these things as to what, because for this particular for Northwest, their funding has changed anyhow. It's going from Medicaid to Medicare. It's state funding, and who knows? I should really have an accounting back as to what they're doing, and I should
how
know,
many of our people are participating?
I should know under what rules are they operating.
Right.
If it's just all of a sudden, I find as a big board of directors getting a lot of money, which I'm not saying it is, but I mean, this is the type of the one of the areas of real concern to the public in terms of public money has been, and it's been all over the news for the last few years, are these non-for-profits that are funded through the government.
Right.
And you had in New York City, you found out they were spending that $11 million member slush fund that was basically being passed out to non-for-profits that legislators were setting up. They would set up their non-for-profits. They'd put themselves on the board, or they'd put members of their
Listen, there are these
their friends on the board. They're getting a big. All of a sudden, there
are these boxes around town. Some of them that people come and they don't donate clothing to, and they have a very catchy name. And you know what? These are not non-for-profits. Some of these are businesses, and
Yes,
it's
you're
very
absolutely right.
when you start to make donations and things like that, you ought to go on Charity Navigator and look and
Yes.
see what
Right.
what it is. For instance, CEO of Salvation Army, you know what he makes? $13,000 a year.
A year.
A year.
Yeah.
All right, just to cover expenses. The CEO of UNICEF makes like $1 million too.
Right. Yes. Right.
So, you know what? Like Michael says, the fact that something is a not-for-profit doesn't mean that all that money can't be used up in
right.
private jets. And not saying that it is the
Right,
case with
but
all
it's
things, but there
also-
certainly are enough examples
They don't have
to warrant
Oh, no, absolutely.
to warrant
Yeah, right.
speculation.
They come out of some of the a lot of these NFPs, the way it's set up is they end up outside the scrutiny of anybody.
Right.
So the thing is, and they may have start off with very laudable goals, and maybe they are, but sometimes so it's horrible to think that you have to have that level of cynicism, scrutiny, but you do.
You do?
I don't
Oh,
think
yeah.
it's. I
You
don't
do.
consider
Yeah.
it that. I consider it a level of responsibility.
Yeah,
Right.
no, it is. And it's,
You know what? I don't look at it cynically. I don't.
Remember
I
you-
don't have feelings about it one way or the other. I just want to make sure the money's being used right.
I mean, years ago, I don't even want to mention the charity because it's really not fair to the current
Right.
state of the charity. But there's one of the most famous in the world where they found out 90% of the revenue was going to administrative costs. 10% was actually being
Oh, a
dispersed
private jet?
to. Yeah, right. You know,
Right.
and, yeah.
Penthouse in Manhattan.
Right.
These are
I'm
the-
sure everybody listening knows.
It knows what
you
we're
know,
saying,
but
but-
you know,
but again, it's a new-
with
you know,
all due
they-
respect, that was a
Right.
previous
Right,
previous
exactly.
administration, and you know what, the charity might be the best in the world right now.
And they
But
had
you
to
know what,
rebuild it, yeah.
it's you know what, in this world, with the internet access that we have, you owe it to yourself to find out things before.
Yeah, absolutely.
You
There's
know,
no
it's
excuse
like,
not
like
to.
our
Right.
fluoride hearing on the 22nd. You know what? I've asked our constituents to just Google fluoride and go out there and see. You know what it is, what you think it is, and do you want it in your water?
Yeah, see, now, I come and I give the guy a job. I make him the point guard
water-
to the joint water.
You're saying
works.
he's carrying your water?
And then
I bring the most
what does
contentious
what does he
issue.
got to do? He's got to bring in the fluoride issue. So
The most contentious issue that we'll probably face this year, other than
Well,
Costco.
it's interesting. I mean, it's interesting because I think you're going to have a lot of self-proclaimed experts on one side.
Oh,
or the
both
other.
sides. Oh my gosh,
but we should,
literally, I'm
something-
averaging 10 to 12 emails a day, and
We
and
should-
honestly, half pro and half con.
Right. We should, for the benefit of the audience, just very quickly summarize what
Right.
the situation is.
Okay, so what we have is Yorktown is served by we're part of the Northern Westchester Joint Waterworks.
Right.
Years ago, Yorktown was having issues with water. We got together with Montrose, we got together with Cortland, we got together with Somers, and we formed the Joint Waterworks, which we purify our own water,
Right.
and then we sell it to the public. All right. The Amawalk plant, which serves Yorktown and serves Somers,
Right.
is a fully fluoridated plant. We inject all that water with fluoride. So Somers gets it, whether they want it or not, as a result of the fact that they're a small player in that scheme and they have to take it because the water comes from there. At the Catskill plant, which is not in the Catskills, it's over on Locust Avenue in Cortland.
Right.
All right. But it sounds better to think that it's up in the Catskills, you know.
Well, it's Catskill water.
Yeah, it's Catskill water.
Right.
At the Catskill plant, we injection fluoride our water. Montrose and Cortland chose to opt out of it. They didn't want fluoridation in their water. So from that plant, Yorktown constituents are receiving their fluoride. So basically, between Amawalk and Catskill, everybody in Yorktown that has town water is having their water fluoridated. What has brought it to an issue at this point is that the plants are in need of repair, and you know what? The money is set aside, the money is there, but it becomes a matter of fluoride is available in a plethora of other ways. Every time you brush your teeth, mouthwash, raisins are very high in fluoride.
Right.
Probably 70% of the bottled beverages you drink have fluoride in them. Okay. That being said, you owe it to yourself to Google it online, see exactly what it is, and you know, let us know. We're public servants. You know, we don't. It's very difficult for us to act in a vacuum. My personal feelings with respect to things are, I'm a strong advocate of personal freedom.
Right.
Okay, I concern myself with anything that the government pushes down on us.
Right. You're a libertarian. Yeah.
Well, I am. That would be a good thing to say. You know what? But
Jesse
I'm not.
Jesse
I'm not.
Ventura.
I'm not.
Jesse
I'm not
Ventura.
I am not a big believer in government intrusion because If you're fluoridating the water today,
Right.
you know what? If the economy continues to worsen and people are having road rage, let's put some Prozac in that water.
Right.
You know, I mean, everybody would be a lot happier.
Tom liked
right?
that idea.
Everybody would be a lot happier. And you know what? I mean, at some point, the people have to let you know how they feel, but also you have to determine what you're comfortable with respect to government.
Right.
You know,
Intervention.
intrusion.
Right.
Yeah, well, at this point too, it's you know, we're looking at a capital improvement.
Right, and capital improvement and a cost associated with it
Of
annually.
the water, you mean of the
They're
water.
doing the fluoridation.
Right,
The pump's got to be fixed and some other things.
You're
have to
looking
be
at
done.
about $230,000. It's costing about $23,000 a year just for the chemicals to fluoridate.
Right.
You know, and you may say, well, it's not a big deal. It isn't a big deal. You know what? If the majority of people in
Go
Yorktown want,
again, see?
if the majority of people
only
in Yorktown
X
want their
amount of
water
households, so.
fluoridated, that's our job is to represent the majority. You know, but we both, Michael and I both ran on the premise that we didn't feel that government intrusion. There were a few issues, and I'm not going to bring them up because it's something that we haven't addressed yet. But there were a few issues that we felt were, you know, owners to homeowners and things like that that needed to be a little bit more simplified, and that it was, you know, government really telling people what they could do in their backyard.
Well, speaking of which,
that's a
and we do
problem.
have to wrap it up, but speaking of which, what about the tree ordinance, which is what it sounds like you were just talking about?
Oh, we were skirting all around that. What's the matter with you?
Well,
Can't you take a hint?
No, you're barking up the wrong
No,
tree.
well, you know,
I'm sorry. What did you say? No,
we'll,
you know what? Honestly, we had when we, you know, and you know, it's like Michael said, it's very hard to get everything done as quickly as you would like to. And it's something that the people that were very active in writing the tree ordinance, we've spoken to them, you know, both of us together and independently. And, you know, they're very much in favor of simplifying it and making it a little
yeah,
more,
they're they're actually not adverse to change.
right, making it user-friendly, I think is a good term.
And you know, it's just it's kind of ironic. I haven't heard much about it, especially after you know, Hurricane Sandy. I don't know if anybody's got anything to take down anymore. But.
Yeah,
Oh,
really, I know,
think,
right?
I think that was a self-fulfilling prophecy.
yeah,
Have,
so-
you know, where I live, right off of Broad Street, right on the corner of Broad and 35.
Yeah.
Trucks that are lying on the
We're
side of
getting
the
to
road.
it.
Yeah.
We're trying to
See, that's a prime example
Yeah.
of not being able to do the right thing because
Of
of
government
government
red tape,
mandates.
yeah.
Right.
In other words, the government mandated we had a person that was willing to come in, a logger
Remove
that
them?
would
Yeah,
come in, pick them up, take them away. It would have been a tremendous savings to the homeowner. Yet, government says,
But which
the
level
state
of
controller,
government? The state?
Well, we-
state controller
state-
says you need to put it out for bids.
We needed to put it out for bid, and you needed to put out to bid. You needed to put it out with the prevailing wage.
Right, which took
schedule.
everybody out of the equation.
So then you put a prevailing wage schedule, and then there's requirements for reporting, for certifying payroll, and you're talking about guys that are running grappling trucks with
Right,
for
for a crew of 4 guys.
And they're not. They,
How you
know,
gonna do
they-
certified
they
payroll?
don't have. You know, they
right.
they don't operate
That's
in the
hard.
world
It's,
of
you know,
certified payroll. So you have 2 or 3 tree companies in the state of New York that really do it. I think Adirondack Tree is one of them. And everything.
I'm sure
They're all-
Asplin
they're all-
does.
yeah,
The guys
but
that are doing the Con Ed work
they're
are
swamped.
definitely paying a prevailing wage, or they
right.
wouldn't be working in
But
Westchester.
they're not. They're not available.
Right.
So you have to redo it. So we went back to bid again. We got some quotes for it on an hourly. So that's how we're going to have to do it. So now it's just coordinating who we got a couple of people that will come in and do it.
But this is something that we could have theoretically addressed
Sooner.
2 months
a
ago.
lot sooner,
Yeah,
yes.
2 months
right.
ago.
I think even the first week I was hoping to get it done.
Yeah.
Right.
They just ran into, well, you can't do it this way, you can't do it that way, and I got to respect what the rules are. Otherwise, the next thing that comes out, we do it all, and I've got FEMA. We were looking for FEMA reimbursement. FEMA's going to say, well, sorry, you didn't do it the
Well,
way
we had
told you
to
do it.
when
You
we
didn't get the
when we
paperwork
first
and-
when we first came into office, we passed the best value law.
Yeah.
Right.
All
Yes,
right,
I know. Right.
because we felt that, you know what, using local people and having
Just
people
the
that
lowest bidder, right.
were there to stand behind the work was an important thing for us.
No, I think
Somebody that you
that's a
can
good
call up
idea.
and say, hey, you know what, we're at town hall right now and we're having a problem with the work you did here and we need you to come down here.
Right.
And they would come, as opposed to somebody who's up in Albany or somebody who's out in Long Island, you know, and there is a case for best value, and it's.
But it's- but it's- but it-
I'm proud that we passed that
No,
legislation.
that was good.
But things, I find myself, everybody says, well, you got to slow down. Well, I don't think I have any choice in the matter at some point. So,
Right.
I just got to be patient.
I think you try to move as quickly as you can on certain things that you have the ability to, because you're stymied in other respects, because you're tied up in red tape, and that's phrase has been around forever, and it's not
Right.
without good cause.
Yeah.
And talking about moving along.
Yeah, I know.
That's,
And we should just, by the way,
We're
we
done.
Tell
should.
you what, coming here, I didn't know this was an hour show, so I didn't know if I was going to be able to get my fluoride plug. I'm looking at my watch saying,
well,
this is a half-hour show. I'm in trouble.
We said we go with the flow, whether it has fluoride or not. But we should mention, because I know I can't make it, I wish I could, but Supervisor Grace, I know, is on his way to the Foundation for Excellence fundraiser at Peter Pratt's. And the reason I want to mention it is they do great work. And speaking of the schools, it's a great example of private money supplementing public funds, right? Because the Foundation for Excellence does a great job raising money to supplement school programs. And
Alliance for
curriculum.
Safe Kids as
Alliance for
well.
Safe Kids is another one.
Absolutely.
So we want to plug them. And, of course, we thank Councilman Dave Paganelli.
And I just wanted, before you go, I got somebody visited me today. They want to do something for the Wounded Warriors and Fisher House.
Oh.
And they're really interested in getting on the umbrella of the Yorktown Organizations
we
United. So I
have to get in
told
touch
them
with
we've
them.
got, we've got to start to.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah,
The
we
Wounded
got-
Warriors is a great
you know,
organization. That's a great
We're
organization.
trying to.
Actually, when you go on Charity Navigator, the majority of charities, with the exception of like the Lions, who give 100%, and the Rotary gives 100% of everything
Right.
they take in,
Yeah.
nobody is paid. You'll see all the charities that give 100% of their money back.
Yes, right.
Are all
It's pass-through.
Are
It's a
all the
pass-through
military
charity,
the
right.
military charities,
Yes,
the
right.
Legions, the
Right.
the
Right.
DAV, the
But we're gonna get.
Wounded Warrior.
We got to.
Yeah, I know. No,
we
well, I
got to.
told you we have stuff going. Yeah, we have stuff in motion to do.
on that note, just to want to let everybody know, that hasn't.
Yeah, Yorktown Organizations United is alive and very well, right?
And
right.
coming back
And
stronger.
coming back very quickly. So, yeah. And thank you for watching Grace Notes with Yorktown Supervisor Michael Grace and our guest, Councilman Dave Paganelli. Be sure to watch us next time and every time, because Yorktown is your town. Thank you.